Friends, welcome to the UK ceremony for Holocaust Memorial Day 2017. This year, we anticipate that Holocaust Memorial Day will be marked by nearly 6,000 local activities around the country, taking place in museums, cinemas, libraries, prisons, schools, churches, civic centres. The life stories of people who were murdered, survivors and refugees are also shared with hundreds of thousands more people who may not be able to attend their local activity, but who are able to learn more about the past and engage with Holocaust Memorial Day in other ways through the work of the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust.
We remember the past for a purpose, to reflect on our own responsibilities, whether as political leaders, faith leaders, representatives of organisations, or simply individuals with choices over how we act and how we relate to others. At the heart of today's commemorations is the Holocaust, which threatened the very fabric of civilization. Those who survived rebuilt their lives in the shadow of an almost unimaginable loss. Today, we reflect in particular on how they did that.
People can be good. People can be better. We just need to be reminded of our failings and not permitted to forget what happens when hatred is left to grow unchecked.
Each survivor is different, and we have all coped with what happened to us in our own way. For me, the memories will always be there, sharp and clear, and they will always be a part of who and what I am.
Buried here, auntie, grandpa, granny, but God spared a small one, who wishes to imagine the perished wait for him.
Haya Storik was murdered in the winter of 1944-45 in Adampol, a labour camp in Poland.
Her sister, Sarah, was murdered in Adampol between 1943 and 1944.
Her other sister, Sipora, was also murdered in Adampol between 1943 and 44.
Sipora's two sons were murdered. The date and location of both deaths are unknown.
Haya's two brothers were murdered. The location is unknown, but it was possible that they were both murdered at Sobibor death camp.
Haya's brother-in-law, Szolka Szturek, was murdered in 1943 after being taken away the day the family arrived in Adampol.
His son Shlomo was murdered in 1944 in Adampol.
Haya's father-in-law, Jankel Szturek, was murdered in the first Einsatzgruppen operation in 1943.
Haya's sister-in-law, Malka Szturek, was also murdered. The date and place of her death are unknown.
Haya's daughter, Hannah, was born in 1937 in Wrodawa, Poland. Hannah and her father were the only survivors of the family. Haya had many other relatives, all of whom were murdered during the Holocaust, whose names and places of death remain unknown. We are delighted that Hannah joins us today.
Naragutakiyura nabaru hurumutwaro ndemereye umisha mu mababa yawe umisha mu mababa yawe ngirinanganza ngucuranga ngo nkunezeze mwiza we nkwituriki mana yanjye nkwituriki mana yanjye nkwituriki.
I've just returned from a visit to Auschwitz-Birkenau with 60 clergy. The witness of that place is to appalling human suffering caused by the terrible collusion of the silent majority. Whilst Jews and others were caricatured and vilified by unscrupulous politicians and venal newspapers, there was an unquestioning acceptance by ordinary people. Life goes on amid a culture of alternative facts today, of post-truth, of collusion with deeds which sing the tunes of evil, a culture which needs to be challenged at every level and in every conversation and debate in this country.
Holocaust denial is not an assault on the history of one particular group, though denial of the Holocaust may be an attack on the history of the annihilation of the Jews. At its core, it poses a threat to all who believe that knowledge and memory are among the keystones of our civilization. Just as the Holocaust was not a tragedy of the Jews, but a tragedy of civilization in which the victims were Jews, so too denial of the Holocaust is not a threat just to Jewish history, but a threat to all who believe in the ultimate power of reason.
If we genuinely want to guarantee that the legacy of our outstanding and wonderful survivors will be kept, we need to be mindful of the teachings of the Talmud, which says, Lo hamidrash ha'ikar, ela hama'aseh. It's not what you think and say that counts, rather what you will do to change the world.
כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר כי המזהירים את נשמות אחינו בני ישראל, הקדושים והטהורים, שנפלו בידי הרוצחים ונשפך דמם. באושוויץ, מיידנק, טרבלינקה, ובשאר מחנות השמד באירופה, שנהרגו, שנשחטו, ושנשרפו, ושנטבעו, ושנחנקו, ושנקברו חיים על קידוש השם. בעבור שכל הקהל הקדוש הזה מתפללים בעד הזכרת נשמותם, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם. לכן ברחמים יסתירם בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, ויצרו בצרור החיים מנשמותם. אדוני הוא נחלתם, וינוחו בשלום על משכבותם, ונאמר Amen.
Youth champions from the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust with the words of Elie Wiesel.
For the survivor, death is not the problem.
Death was an everyday occurrence. We learned to live with death.
The problem is to adjust to life, to living.
You must teach us about living.
And we hope you will be amongst the 93% of people who go on to make some form of action after a Holocaust Memorial Day event, learn more, share some life stories of people most affected, and let other people know why this is so important, perhaps even more so in today's climate of fear and uncertainty.